A statewide elected official in Texas says he's sick of being disappointed by the Texas legislature and is going on a rhino hunt. I'm Brandon Waltons. This is the headline. With the regular legislative session done in Austin and many conservative priorities left unaddressed, Texas Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller says he's going on a rhino hunt. Here to talk about what he means, we have Commissioner Sid Miller here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you today, Brandon.
So you have a commentary up at TexasScorecard.com that's getting a lot of traction, a lot of attention, where you've essentially called out the legislature, the Republican-led legislature, here in Texas, and said they essentially have blown the big opportunity that they've had. What do you mean?
Well, we have got, we own the House. We run the Senate. We have the executive branch. There's no reason we can't just roll our way right through our Republican agenda. Now, these people, they have the benefits of running as a conservative Republican and the support of all of our grassroots efforts. Then we send them to Austin, and they don't get our agenda done. Now, they did a few good things. I will applaud them for stopping the, mutilation of our children in the name of gender identification. And then they kept some pornographic materials out of classrooms, but the fails are much more than the wins. And the wins are they just should be laid down easy. You shouldn't even have to break a sweat to pass this type of legislation. We got we didn't get property tax reduction. We're doing a second session on that. It's like that's a stalemate. We didn't get school choice. I mean, there's so many things that just didn't get done. We didn't get compassionate use done. We didn't really get anything on border security. We threw some money at it, but we didn't pass out House Bill 7. One of my big priorities, I've been working on this one for 4 years. We failed 2 sessions, and that's stopping our enemies like China from buying any more of our farmland. That's just stupid. I mean, who wants to do that? Who wants to let the Chinese own our farmland, access to our electric grid, espionage on our military bases? That's 100%er out here in rural Texas.
Well, and in your commentary, you say that, the disappointment, there's been a lot of Republicans that have disappointed, even some people you say, in particular, some rural members that you've even endorsed in the past.
Well, I know. I mean, I'm just frustrated. I think everybody's frustrated, at least at the grassroots level. We get out here and we work these guys and gals and raise them money, and we endorse them, and I put my name on the line, and then they don't deliver. It's just it is disappointing, and I'm frustrated, and I'm ready to do something about it, and I think a lot of people are.
Now, you've served in the Texas House, so you have maybe some different insight into this. But a lot of people look at this and they wonder how this happens, like why it is, right, that we send Republicans and they're not able many times to get done the priorities that people send them there to do. What is your take on kind of the why this happens?
Well, I call it's that they become squishies, and I'll have to explain that. So when you get down to Austin, most of them get there with really good intentions, and they really want to make a difference. And then they get into the dips and chips, I call it. They start going to all of the receptions, and then they get cozied up to the lobbyists and in the campaign, contributors. And then, they want to be a chairman of a committee, so they want to get in, good in the in crowd. So all of a sudden, the dips and chips become more important than the constituents back in the district. And so the saying goes, you need to dance, who brought you to the dance, and they forget that, and they start wanting to chase all the pretty girls at the dance instead of the one who brought them, and they lose sight of their purpose. And it's the squishy part is it's kind of like they lean on you, and you have to remain strong, even if you're wrong. Hold your ground. That's my advice to those freshmen. Whatever you said, stick with it, even if you figure out you're wrong, because once they lean on you and they squish that tomato, they'll come back time and time and time again, because they know that they can switch your vote and that you're really not hard line that you mean what you say, that if they lean on you hard enough, they can get you to change your vote. Very interesting. I saw something that I hadn't seen before. I think it was Grassroots America came out with a flip-flop index. That thing is amazing. If you hadn't seen that, it's amazing how many times they go up and change their vote. We didn't really used to do that very much, but now it looks like it's become a very common thing.
Absolutely. You have indicated looking toward the election season, the upcoming primary next year, that you said essentially you're going to get involved in some of these races. Can you give us a little bit of a preview of what you mean?
Well, I've always tried to stay out of running against incumbents. In my last election, I think there was about 50 House members that endorsed my opponent, even though I'm the incumbent. So I think I think that frees me up to get involved in some races that need to be involved in. There was some really close races. Now that I look back in the last election, within 100, 200 votes, I didn't get involved. If I'd have got involved, we'd have probably had a conservative in that spot than someone that, votes with the Democrats. So, that kind of frees me up since they, those members, and Senate members too, did the same thing. So I'm going to go out after these rhinos and we're going to hold them accountable.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing that. Commissioner Miller, thank you so much for joining.
Glad to be here.
And we'll be right back.
Let's get to the hunt.
If you're not watching the Luke Macias Show, then you are not as engaged as everybody else is in Texas who's trying to make a difference, knowing exactly what's going on so that they can take action on the things that really matter. Guys, watch us on the Roku app for Texas Scorecard. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Get engaged, get more informed, so together we can actually make a bigger difference on things that matter for the future of Texas. God bless you.
With what looks like potentially several more special sessions on the horizon for the Texas Legislature, educational freedom is certainly coming up. You have Governor Greg Abbott, who has said that he will be adding school choice to a future special session. And yet there does seem to be some disagreement between the House and the Senate on what exactly that might look like. Here to talk about the fight for school choice and educational freedom in the Texas Legislature, we have the Policy Director for Texas Homeschool Coalition, Anita Scott. Anita, thank you so much for joining. And, this school choice question, this is a battle that's been fought for years and years now. Is anything different this time?
I think what is different is that we are able to bring data to the table that says more than 70% of Texas, across party lines, across demographics, across socioeconomic status, across religious lines, are saying it is time for economic freedom for Texas families. Or I'm sorry, educational freedom.
Yes, well, probably for both, right?
Right, exactly.
We've repeatedly seen, though, this session where in the Texas House in particular, there has been a number of votes where they have essentially voted against school choice, and yet there continues to be the momentum. The governor has still been vocal on this. Mm-hmm. What do you think changes in the next few months to get this across the finish line?
I think what needs to change is that it's time for those who wear the R hat as well as the D hat to recognize that if 70% of families are saying we want to send our children to schools that no longer is limited by the zip code, it's no longer limited by the government's mandate, and it's time for those who wear the R and the D to say, you know what, our constituents have said it, and it's time for us to acquiesce.
There has been some discussion about, what exactly a final plan would look like. Some of the proposals sort of take homeschool students out of it completely. What is your organization's position on those proposals?
If it takes homeschool families out, that's not so much of a threat as if it were to include homeschools, but then have government overreach. So we are willing to say, you know what, it's okay if we're not included. Let's at least get all families across the finish line, and we may come second, we may come third, but what we don't want is to be included and then the government to tell us, this is what you have to do. You now have to do this. You now have to do this. We don't want a criteria. We want still for all families in Texas to have the freedom to direct the care, control of their children's academic freedoms.
And speaking of homeschooling, there have been some pro-homeschool measures that have made it through the legislature over the past couple sessions. One of those being the ability now for students to be able to participate in UIL academics and districts. What exactly has been done on this issue this session?
Isn't that great? So you're referring to HB 3708, and it is another historic landmark for the Texas legislature. So to even give context to that, back in 2021, as you well know, the Texas Homeschool Coalition worked with the Texas legislature to pass HB 547. And that gave what that did was it gave homeschoolers opportunity to participate in UIL. And that's for districts who opt in. Now, with HB 3708, the Texas Homeschool Coalition said, you know what? Our schools are bearing these costs for UIL, homeschool participation. Why don't we provide an allotment of $1,500 per activity per homeschool student? And it's just a great way to incentivize our charter schools and our ISDs to participate in allowing homeschoolers to participate in UIL.
Real quick before we go, last question. Where can people go if they want to follow what Texas Homeschool Coalition is doing in the legislature and across the state?
Oh, Texas Homeschool. It's a Texas Homeschool Coalition. It's our website. And we even have an entire webpage on our website designed and dedicated to UIL assistance.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anita, for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Headline. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead, hit like, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we have new content for you here at Texas Scorecard. For right now, I'm Brandon Waltons. Have a great weekend.
No ads, no paywalls, no government grants, and no corporate masters. Just real news for real Texans. This is Texas Scorecard.